Hello, today we're going to be talking a little bit about pattern drafting and making pattern adjustments. One of the more common pattern adjustments that people have to make are small or full bust adjustments, because most patterns, except for a few small pattern companies, are drafted for a B cup. If you're not a B cup, you're going to have to work to make the pattern fit you. So today we're going to be talking about a full bust adjustment, or an FBA, which is something that I have to do on every pattern that I sew with. So, we're going to go over a traditional FBA, and then I'm going to show you my cheater FBA for cases when we have a basic bodice pattern that instead of having a dart here, has gathers along the shoulder and gathers along the waistline. Alright, so let's look at our options for full bust adjustments. So I have three mini bodice fronts that we're going to be using today. Going to keep one to use as our original. And so first we're going to do a basic FBA on this pattern. So the pattern I'm using, we have gathers at the shoulder, and we also have gathers along the bottom of the blouse or the bodice of our dress. And oftentimes if you have gathers one place, you have gathers the other place. If you don't have any darts in this pattern, and we want to not end up with adding any darts after our FBA. So the first thing we're going to do is mark our bust point, which on your own pattern you would want to do this a little bit more accurately, but for this demonstration I'm just going to eyeball it. So we're going to put our dart point, our bust point, right about there. Then we're going to take our ruler and we're going to draw a line from that bust point straight down, and we're going to draw a second line from that bust point through to the arm side, like so. So we have our two lines drawn. Alright, next we're going to cut along these lines, but not clip all the way through the armhole, so it's still attached and we can pivot our little pieces. Alrighty there. So we're still attached here. Next, we're going to take a piece of tracing paper. Normally, if I'm working with a copy of a paper, it's already on tracing paper. This will help us see what changes we've made. And we are going to tape down one side of our cut. And then we're going to measure the distance for our full bust adjustment. For this mini scale, I'm going to do just 1/4 of an inch. Alright, and then we can line up our free side along the length of the line we just drew. And then we're going to tape that down. So you can see we've distorted that shape of our pattern. So we're going to cut along the side to this point. And if we were going to be keeping a dart, this would form our little dart section. Alright, and now you can see that the pattern piece lies flat. If we wanted a dart here, we would have a dart. But we want to move our dart. So what we're going to do is we're going to make two cuts. We're going to make a cut from this side through to our bust point, and we're going to make a cut here from the shoulder also down to the bust point. And now we can move our dart down and have a new dart. Let's see, I need a little bit more tracing paper here. To fill in the top of this dart. Alright, and now our dart has been moved to the top here. It's within that gathering section, and we can just gather this whole section together instead of making a dart. Now we just have the last things to do are finishing up, cleaning up the pattern. We want to true this edge so it matches up and we don't have this kind of jog. And also on the bottom we're going to true this edge as well. You can either choose to leave the extra length or cut it off. So for this purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to cut it off because it's easier. And lastly, I'm going to move the original gather marking, which is right about here, over by 1/4 of an inch so we don't lose that extra width that we got from our FBA. So that is our finished pattern piece. You can see this is what the adjustments look like that we made to it when we did an actual FBA and then moving our dart up here to the top where the gathers were. Alright, so now I'm going to show you my cheater method. So again, we want to mark the bust point. I'm going to just use my other pattern piece to eyeball where my bust point is. It's going to be right about there. We're going to draw a line straight from the shoulder all the way down to the bottom through this bust point. Alright, then we're just going to slice along this line, so our pattern piece will be cut all the way in half. Alright, we're going to again use some tracing paper. And we're going to tape one side of our bodice pattern along the edge of the tracing paper. Then we're going to mark how big we want our full bust adjustment to be. Again, we're going to use 1/4 of an inch. And we're going to mark that line. And we're going to tape the other half of our pattern piece so that it lines up right along that line. And then again, we're going to make our last final pattern adjustments. We're going to true this edge so that it lines up. And we're going to move this gathering at the bottom over by 1/4 inch, the same distance that we made our full bust adjustment over, so that we don't lose this width that we gained from the full bust adjustment. And there is our finished pattern piece with my cheater FBA for blouses and bodices with gathers instead of now we're going to take a look at the different pattern adjustments. Remember, this was our initial bodice pattern piece. We have gathers along the waist and at the shoulder, and no dart shaping along the side edge. First we made our traditional FBA, and we moved the dart from the side to the shoulder area so we could do gathers instead of a dart. And that's what our pattern piece looks like. Compare that to our original. We can see that we have reshaped this pattern piece a little bit. And then here's our cheater FBA pattern piece. Okay, so our original, see, we've gained some width on the side, and then compared with our traditional FBA. We can see that there's a little bit of difference between these two pieces. Although overall, it's very similar. Now this works really well for patterns with gathers because they tend to be a little bit more blousey, more drapey, less fitted. So the small differences between these two patterning pieces mean that both adjustments are going to work well for this type of pattern. The biggest difference is that if you decide to keep the length from the traditional FBA, you don't get that extra length from the cheater version, and so you need to add that yourself if you do find that you need the extra length in the bodice piece to fit yourself. So there you go. There is my cheater FBA.